Mattea Conforti, good to see you. Welcome back to Popternative.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me back.
No, I'm excited to chat with you about the Testaments. It's interesting, right? Because you can think about it a lot of different ways, but in terms of being part of a TV show that is based on, like, that is part of a very established world, an established universe, what's that
Mm.
like for you? Do you think about that a lot? Do you try not to think about that? What's that like for you?
I mean, it's such a pleasure and it's such a blessing to be able to have my own impact on this incredibly established and very well-loved world. I was a very big Handmaid's Tale fan and also a very big Margaret Atwood fan for that matter. So being able to step in and kind of offer my own insight on this world and role was truly an amazing experience.
Do you think about a lot? Do you think about The Handmaid's Tale and the books a lot when you're kind of preparing for something like this, or does it feel kind of like its own standalone thing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, having that knowledge and that insight is super helpful, but I think about them separately just because the Testaments, it's a show that can really stand on its own and that we kind of had to think in a separate light just because it explores so many new themes that The Handmaid's Tale would just either briefly touched on or didn't really have the chance to explore. So I think, kind of separating the two and respecting them in their own separate manners was what helped me the most.
I feel like anytime someone is cast for something that is, a sequel, prequel, or kind of like reimagination, right, or spin-off of something that, like you said, is kind of very known, worldwide and everything. I feel like it's a unique casting situation because I feel like there's familiar territory and unfamiliar territory at the same time, right? About
Right.
The Handmaid's Tale, the books, but then like, a little bit maybe about, but this is like, a new chapter and everything with the Testaments. Do you feel like that's a unique casting situation for yourself where you know what's going on, but at the same time you don't know what's going on? It's interesting to think about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally get what you mean. I kind of feel like that's this case for me with every project that I've had the opportunity to work on.
Many
I
saints.
exactly many um, yes, prime example right there. But even if it's not a sequel, I feel like I know kind of the material that I'm getting into, but I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly adapting every single day. And I think the Testaments really explored that and that adaptation from The Handmaid's Tale. And luckily, we were surrounded by the Handmaid's Tale family a lot of the time, and a lot of the crew came from the show to work on the Testaments as well. So they had a lot of great firsthand knowledge and insight to offer if we, had any questions or needed any help, or we were just needed people to reach out to. So that was really great.
And Dowd, right, is in this
And
series
out
as
the
well.
wonder, yeah,
What was
most
that like finding out about that? Because they give you kind of information, probably in like certain, like they probably tell you a little bit and then you learn as you go, right? But like when did you find
right.
out that specifically?
Well, so the whole show is based in her academy and in her school. So I knew that we would be kind of working around her, but I never knew that I would have the opportunity to work with her and the opportunity to meet her. And she is just the most kind and generous soul through and through, like the polar opposite of Aunt Lydia, honestly. So when you would see that switch, from her off camera to camera, it's just it's a credit to how amazing of an actress she truly is. But it was so incredible to work with her, and she's such an incredible woman.
So when you like the audition process is always different, right? But like, so getting back to that, did you know what you were auditioning for? Did you know it was the Testaments? Did you know it was like
I
based on that book? Like, I'm just curious because sometimes
right.
they might use like code names.
So they did use a code name. The code name for the
Mm.
show, while we were filming at least, was Dollhouse. Um, and when I was auditioning for it, it was different character names, and the show's name was different too. But it's kind of hard to tiptoe around a Gilead Testament's handmade script.
Yes.
So I auditioned for it, and then I think after I sent in my initial audition and I received a producer session after, I was like, okay, I think I understand the material here and the gravity of the situation. So got to put the best foot forward.
Absolutely. You booked the role. It's confirmed. You're filming the show in Toronto. The Testaments. It's all that. All the preparing. You get these scripts, right? And you're preparing, right? And you can kind of picture as much as you can in your head. But I feel like it only gets real when you get there and see
Yes.
everyone. What is that script to screen journey like for you for the Testament specifically?
Right. So I mean, we initially first arrived before we started filming for our pre-production, which is where we had the opportunity to really explore our roles and the relationships that they had with the other characters as well. So we all, as a cast, sat down with the first script and a few of the first scenes to really dissect the material at hand. And even just going forward from there, we would receive a script, but then we would have the opportunity to sit down with the writers, and we had kind of our own. I had a few meetings with one of our directors, Mike Barker, and our showrunner, Bruce Miller, also to really sit down with Becca's material and dissect her character and the thoughts that she had going on behind the scenes that she's not allowed to verbalize or necessarily show within the Gilead regime. So that was very helpful, and we had a lot of great conversations throughout the entire cast.
Kind of add to that a little bit. When do you like having those conversations? Because a lot of those conversations are ongoing. They might be more when you're going to camera on something. They might be more kind of like before. I mean, I feel like they're always, as a storytelling actor, you enjoy having those conversations all the time. But
Yeah.
what about for you specifically? Do you like them all the time? Do you like them on set? Like,
I really enjoy them all the time. I really enjoyed them when I first got there just because I really wanted to make sure that I was grasping the material in the right way. And it's a high stakes environment. You know, you're coming off of a show that had a very impactful legacy, and you want to do its due diligence in that way. So those conversations from the beginning were very helpful. And as the season progresses, those conversations became, without spoiling too much, even more helpful and better for my character as well. But yeah, just all the time, I really appreciate them.
you might get cast in something that the call sheet has like 25 people. But depending on what it is, if it's a TV show or a movie where you have a couple of days, you might work with like 2 or 3 people. I always find it interesting when someone like looks at someone's IMDb and it's like, what was it like working with this person? It's like, oh, we had different days. You know what I mean? And
Right.
everything. Like for this one though, you really had the ensemble cast experience, right? Where you got to work with a lot of incredible storytellers. What was that like for you? And can you talk a little bit more about that kind of experience, that like ensemble cast experience with the Testaments?
I love talking about my experience with the rest of the cast because we bonded instantly. It was like showing up to work with your family every single day. When the cameras would cut, we would immediately break out into jokes, and it felt so goofy. And everybody was so supportive. You know, people were there for each other when they needed a shoulder to lean on, or someone to vent to, or rant to, or even just discuss the material, or just chill out and hang out after we were done filming.
Yeah.
It was such a collaborative environment, and everybody was truly there for each other in such an altruistic way at the end of the day, which really made the experience for me.
Absolutely. I also make I'm a filmmaker as well, so I feel like my filmmaker hat kind of asks you this question right now, Mattea, and I'm curious, right? We might see a scene or two, in the Testaments with you and your cast, and the runtime, is maybe 2 minutes, right? And then we go on to the next scene, right? But I know that there's a chance that that scene we see, even though we
Just
just
the
see two
chance.
minutes, might have taken the whole day or a couple of days or even a week. When those big scenes happen, do they feel like their own mini movie or they overall feel part of the project?
Well, I will say that was a very prominent theme of our entire shoot. I feel like every scene that we shot was very complexly thought out and was very well sat down with, and it was a very thoughtful process. So
Yeah.
even the most simplistic scene that you would see for maybe 2 minutes, I would say we filmed for maybe 7 hours just to make sure that we get the right emotion conveyed and the right angles, the right lighting. You know, everything is captured perfectly because this is such an important story to tell. So it kind of requires that sense of attention to detail. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. A lot of the scenes took a lot longer to film than they show in the show.
Absolutely. Two more questions before we
Yeah.
wrap up. In terms of, I walk on eggshells a lot with these interviews because I don't really I like talking about the craft. I don't want to kind of talk about certain things. I would love you to answer this in regards to your character. What was something you really enjoyed about your character before filming, like reading the script? And what was something that you also enjoyed when you got to play this character and get there? Because there could be two different things, because there might be things that you like really started to really enjoy about this character only when you started playing her, if that makes
Right.
sense.
When I
Yeah.
first sat down with the first script, and I initially looked at Becca's character, I was really intrigued by her initial hesitation and doubt already stepping into this world. Just because these girls have no outside reference or material to really see any alternative solution than being a wife at the end of the day. That is supposed to be their ultimate destiny. And Becca already enters super hesitant about that, ultimate fate for herself. So I think I was really excited to take on this role that kind of reinforces audiences' hesitations about the world these girls have to grow up in. And I think just as I was filming, I really, really enjoyed Becca's character arc. It was such a journey to play, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it was very fun.
Absolutely. And then it's interesting, right? Because I know like when you're acting on set, you're trying not to think about these things because you want to be in the zone and focus
Mm.
on your character and the storylines. But it's interesting, thinking about the audience, right? How people watch things, when they watch things, the
Right.
different ways they could watch things, right? And I'm curious, like, when do you start thinking about the audience as a storyteller and actor? Do you ever think about the audience watching the testaments while you're making it? Is that something
Yeah.
that happens after you wrap? It's interesting to think about.
Of course, it's always a thought that's in the back of my head of how people will perceive the show. What message will they take away at the end of the day? And I think The Testaments does such a great job of kind of having an open-ended response where audiences can derive of their own conclusions from the show, which I think is so beautiful. But I honestly, this whole process has felt so surreal that I kind of forgot that audiences will be perceiving it. I think just I would show up to work every day and really focus on how my other castmates are interacting with me and how they're perceiving the effort that I'm putting in because I want to show up for them just as much as I'm showing up for myself. So I think that was what was really going through my head at the time. But I'm certainly now starting to think about the audience watching the show as the premiere date is coming up.
Absolutely. No, that's super well said. And yeah, I'm look forward for everyone to check out the Testaments on Hulu coming soon. Mattea, great. Thank you so much for your time. It was good to chat with you again.
Thank you so much. It was great chatting with you again.
You have an Instagram account, right? If people want to keep up to date with
Yes,
everything.
just my name, Mattea Conforti.
Awesome. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Popternative.com has other content as well. Until next time, this is Mattea Conforti, who you will be able to catch in the Testaments on Hulu and PD Beats. Signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.